grandmother. Okay. So most of my life, especially when I was a kid, my parents ended up splitting up, and so it was mostly my mom working two full-time jobs just to put food on the table, and I grew up very, very, very poor. Like poor to the point where we just like they would turn the lights off on us, and we were eating dinner by candlelight, like that kind of poor. And so what would happen is a lot of the times when my mom was out working, my grandmother would take care of us. And so my it was a three-story house in Chicago, and the attic was just completely empty. The second floor was where my mother lived, and then the first floor was where my grandmother lived. And then you had a basement, and the basement is like one of those like brick walls, smells like damp mold type of basements, right? It's where the washing machine. It's where like the wet room. It was just a storage, you know. But what it had was a long hallway, and then right to the entrance of the basement to the right was a little desk with a TV and a bookshelf with a lot of books, and that's where my grandfather would sit down and kind of like his relaxation room. He would watch TV. He would do whatever. To your left was a slop sink, a washer and a dryer, and then all the way towards the back there was a wooden door. And when I say wooden door, I don't mean a wooden door that has, a doorknob or whatever. I mean like a wooden door where it was just boards with a hole and a chain with a padlock on it that would keep the door closed. So I don't know how your relationships with your grandfathers were, but I absolutely love and adore my grandfather, rest his soul. And growing up, he was always very loving, very affectionate to me, but there was always a part of him that was kind of closed off that I never really asked him, like talked to him about certain things. I know it's really weird. But anyways, every time I would ask my grandfather about that door, he would tell me a story. And the story being that when they bought that house, it was nothing but just a dirt plot that that the house existed on before. It was like one of the first houses. The house is over 100 years old. So the entire basement is covered on the bottom floor has cement, super smooth. That back room is dirt. Nothing's in that room but a single window. And that window, my grandfather boarded up and he spray painted it, which I always thought was strange. So one day, and I don't know if maybe my grandfather was just decided he wanted to share or if he was drunk or I don't know what. My grandfather was always a very close to the chest kind of guy. And he ended up telling me that there's kind of a superstition that talks about, and I don't know if there's a Mexican thing or a Hispanic thing, but they talk about that if a person who lives a good life happens to come across a lot of money and they hide that money, right? And they say, the money is here, and you go and you look for it there, that's where it'll be. However, if the person lived a dishonest life and got that money through dishonest means or dishonorable means or just in a way that isn't right, the money moves. So if you were to say the money's buried here and you dig there, it's not there. You could dig anywhere you want, you'll never find it, but the money's there. Anyways, so he told me the story that the man that he got the land from did such a thing, and that supposedly that man claimed to have buried a box full of gold, basically coins, memorabilia, just things of a lot of value in that room, and that's why my grandfather refused to have that paved over with cement. And the fact that my grandfather said that he dug in that room for years and never found anything, being superstitious, led him to believe that this man came across that money by some means that wasn't right. And of course, as a kid, I didn't really think anything. Abuelito, you're fucking crazy, whatever. But nevertheless, my grandfather would keep that door closed all the time, padlock. And he would, if ever my grandfather was to lose his temper, is if you ever got near that door. Like he wanted no one in that house. Grandmother, aunts, uncles, my dad, my mom, no one was allowed, right? So I remember one Sunday because my grandfather played organ, the organ for his church till the day he died. It was mass. He was away playing, and my abuelita asked me to go downstairs to get a can of coffee because that's where they would keep, like, I'm talking like stacks and stacks of the big old aluminum cans of coffee. So I go down there, and mind you, I'm like 7, 8 years old at the time, and I notice the door's open. And what I find really strange is that I see a light coming from that door. And so naturally I think to myself, well, what the hell? I'm like, the window should be spray painted and it should be boarded shut, so there shouldn't be any light. And mind you, there's like no light bulb. There's nothing in that room. So I wasn't exactly afraid, but more kind of just like curious, like, whoa, what the hell is this about? So naturally I start walking towards the back of that room. And the closer and closer I get, my teeth, look, I'm starting to get goosebumps just remembering it. My teeth start to, like, not vibrate, but like sting, hurt from the inside. But I keep walking towards the door. And I remember grabbing the link, the chain link that held the door in place, and pulling on it. And when I pulled the door, I saw the dirt. And then I saw a small hole kind of like sink itself in. And then another hole sink itself in. And then like three more. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then in the corner of the room, swear to you, swear to God, I saw a shadow of a man with a hat. Goosebumps, I'm telling you. In the corner. It lifted its arm and just pointed at me. And then a blue flame shot out from the center of the room. Lit up the entire basement. Screamed my ass off, started crying, ran upstairs to my grandmother. I swear, as I was running away, I could hear the door slam shut. Flame. It was a flame. And when my grandmother came back down, and I explained everything that happened to her, that door locked. The chain was around it. The padlock was on. I don't know what the hell happened. To this day, I'm a grown-ass man. I have children. I'm married, right? You can't make me go in that basement. And my grandmother still lives in that house. My grandfather's passed. Won't go in that basement. Yeah. So yeah, that's one scary story that's happened to me. I've had multiple things like that happen to me growing up. So yeah, so there. Hopefully that was an interesting story for you guys.